We're on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, the actually very, very, very first line. And as Jack pointed out, we had the 7 heavens last week, correct? And, right? And we actually, there is a coda to that, right on that first line. V'yom Rav Acha Bar Yaakov.
Where are you?
First line in Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. It's the 6th word. 2, 4, 5, 6. V'yomar Rav Acha. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. Od rakia echad yesh lamala me'rashi achayot. Above the rashi achayot, which are on top of the rakios, there is one more heaven. Tichsiv, and this is Cheskel. Udmut al rashi hachaya rakia ke'ein hakerach hagadol. Then on top of Hanora. Ke'ein hakerach hanora. So on top of the there is a figure on the top of the heads of the chaya, which is a rakia, which is like the awesome ice.
Right.
Okay, so that is therefore another rakia that's found there. Okay, so now we have 8 according to Avacho. All right, now this all was founded on different quotes, and is meant to kind of explain the run-up to the Kisei HaKavod and the Merkava, which is on top of all the different Rakiim. So it's not just that there are 7, but these are 7 layers, and each has a different purpose and contains different things. Some are spiritual, some are physical, stars, and weather. But the bottom line is, above all this is where the Kisei HaKavod rests, and therefore they are precursors to the Kisei HaKavod. So it's all going to get tied into the first chapter of Yecheskel, which is really how this all got into it, because when the Gemara had said, "Ein darsh maras," the Mishnah said, "Ein darsh maras b'shlosha v'lo maseh b'reis b'shnayim v'lo b'merkav b'yachid." Okay, elam kena chacham mevin daidaito. So we're really kind of expanding what is the maseh merkava, right? And maseh breishis and maseh merkava. And the Gemara is still going to go further into it. So the Gemara says, as a conclusion to this, Ad kan yesh l'chal rishus l'daber. Until this point, I guess it means until udmus el roshei Roshei Chaya. Ad kan yesh l'chal rishus l'daber. Mikan ve'elech ein l'chal rishus l'daber. So that's as far as you can go. Which pasuk is this? Musa Chaya. What pasuk is this? Right. It's chapter 1.
No, that's it.
But pasuk 1.
No, sorry, no, I'm looking at it. I said, he says here.
It's Ezekiel.
I said the Rakia was Yecheskel.
Yeah, which chapter?
Which Yecheskel one you want?
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1, Chav Beis.
Okay.
So
notice until Chav Bet, it's telling us that you can actually, I guess, do this or read this, and beyond that, it's off base. That's how I understand this. Okay. Correct. Yeah. Right. Okay, this is always the jumps out at people that Ben Sira is quoted in the Talmud.
Many places. Yeah.
Not many places. A few places in the Talmud, which is of course not one of our books.
You wonder how they decided not to the Apocrypha altogether when they were deciding what to put in the Tanakh, right?
So, correct. That's true. We don't know why it was not put in. The answer is that these books appear to really come from the post-biblical era where prophecy ends and the Bible is canonized.
But that happens on Sheikh Knesset HaGedolah, right?
Correct. Okay.
They're the ones who decided.
Let's say that.
Is it the
and that was the time, the end of BAYT Sheni.
The beginning of BAYT Sheni.
Beginning of BAYT
Sheni, maybe 100 years after returning back.
So that means that was 500 years before this.
Before Ben Sira?
No, before
Talmud, before the Gemara.
Gemara was codified.
So yes, it's actually
500-ish years.
It's actually maybe 900 years before the Gemara is codified.
Before the Gemara, but before the Mishnah.
But that doesn't mean they can't study wisdom literature. It just means that when people refer to the books of the Apocrypha and call them Svarim Chitzonim, and if you say Svarim Chitzonim, you're a real bad person, you see it's not that clear. So there may be different types of Svarim Chitzonim.
No, but you take, for example, I'm not talking about Nevi'im, because let's say they agreed, fine, Nevuah stopped, like you said, right? Malachi, whatever. But some of the books in Dvar, in Ketuvim,
are also from this time. Are also traditionally are from this time. Are traditionally from this time. Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, Koheles. Esther is the end of the first Beit Mikdash. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Or the beginning of the second Beit Mikdash. Depends on who you identify this as. That's it. Chagiga, Zechariah, Malachi, that's the end. These are the last guys.
These are the last prophets, for sure.
So that's why I say it's about, you choose probably about 440 before the Common Era. That's the end of the canon. The books that are...
And we're saying that's when they decided. Not just
that's when it gets closed. That's when it gets closed. That's when the Nevuah ends, effectively, and that's when the books of the Bible are completed. Were there apocryphal books written before? Possibly some of them. Some of them are pseudographia. Some are really ascribed to people in the Bible who they didn't write. Right? Some are almost midrashic in nature, such as Sefer Yovelos. Some of them are earlier, some of them are later. We didn't keep the books of the Apocrypha because they weren't of any significance. They were wisdom literature. There may have been other books of wisdom literature. The church kept the Apocrypha. The church maintained the Apocrypha, and it was important for them because they wanted to show that they were holy books that were still being produced. So that these books, even though they were Apocrypha and outside our Tanakh, but they wanted to show that, because if you if you say that our Tanakh ends in 440, and then you have 450 years, or actually 500 years, because New Testament's really not written until about the year 60, 500 years and nothing's happening, how are you coming up to start a new tradition? But if you say all along there were different books that were written and kept and maintained and studied, and there were, then you can say that you're another one of these books in the long line of tradition. You have an Old Testament, you have an Apocrypha, and you have a New Testament. So a lot of times, if you looked at the old New Testaments, when they published it all together, they would have some of the Apocrypha put in the middle to show a continuity. The problem, but this does lead to a problem, and that is the fact that we did not keep the Apocrypha. The Svarim Chitzonim we did not maintain. In fact, Ben Sira, we didn't even have the original. Ben Sira was known only in I don't remember, a Greek translation or an Aramaic translation. We never had it. So actually they only found bits of the original Ben Sira in the Cairo Geniza. It's one of the first finds that Salman Schechter find. He identified this piece that they knew from the translation, which they never had the original. Why is that important? Because the church likes to look for Christological references and other references. So we don't know how well they maintained the integrity of the books of the Apocrypha.
Yeah, what about books like Maccabees, which also the Apocrypha, two books?
Correct.
Important, you could say, at least from a...
Okay, so as a result, they have significance historically, they have significance as wisdom literature, but they didn't pass the test of complete integrity being in the hands of the Jewish people. For hundreds of years and more, the Jewish people had no access and did not maintain these books. So the only people that kept it were the church. I'm not saying the church was malicious, but I'm saying the tradition could have been influenced by translations and influences and changes and emendations and so forth. So at any rate, so that's why the Apocrypha have this bad rap.
Yeah.
First of all, the Svarim Chitzonim, they're outside the canon, and the Talmud talks about, people in Svarim Chitzonim are heretics and so forth. We don't know what Svarim Chitzonim actually are. Maybe the Apocrypha may be something else, maybe Greek books or something. And the second reason is because it's not our book. At any rate, the Gemara does quote it. Okay, the Gemara feels it's a good piece of wisdom. At least this piece from Ben Sira is a good piece of wisdom literature.
Finally, where does it? Sorry.
The word has entered our vernacular.
Apocrypha
meaning something that isn't true.
Well,
that's what it means. See, this story is apocryphal.
We do that. It's entered that way, but I think it actually means like writing dafka outside.
Yeah, well, that's the original meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
The extended meaning is
the extended
way
meaning
we use
for sure.
the word.
For sure.
True.
So one last thing. Where does it say that the Anshe Knesset Agdola? Like there must have been. I know there are discussions somewhere that say, let's say, should Shirim be in or out, and all those.
The Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf 100b discusses whether the book of Sirah is to be included among the books of the Tanakh, or is to be included among those books that should not be read because of certain objectionable passages.
So where's Sanhedrin? Can you tell me?
100b.
100b. Thank you.
All right.
Maybe that's why they discuss
Correct.
the books that are Taka in the Tanakh.
Right. So it's in other places too. Okay, so the it's, I mean, they're quoting Ben Sira like they quote Pirkei Avos, they quote a Mishnah, quote a pasuk in Tanakh. B'mufla mimcha al tidrosh, that which is I don't know, above you, it's more pella for you. You shouldn't go be darshan. U'b'mchus mimcha al tachkar, and that which is hidden for you, you shouldn't delve into. B'ma shehushet hitbonein. What is permissible to you, you should use bina, and you shouldn't have any involvement with those things which are hidden. Okay, so therefore, stay away from the parts of the Masim Merkava that you really can't understand what they are, and that's really where it comes from. Okay, so Tanya, Amar Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ma tshuva heshivaso bas kol osa rasha. B'shash Amar Ale Abama say Av Admer LeElyon. What did the Bas call this? As if to say the voice of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or the echo of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachol, say to Nebuchadnezzar when he bragged, and he says that I'm going to rise on high, and I'm going to be as high above the land and so forth. Which, in other words, as he views himself, or the Navi views Nebuchadnezzar as the messenger of God. So he's higher than himself. Right? He says he's higher than himself, which really means he's higher than God. Ale Albama se avad mele elyon. He's saying I'm higher than God. So Yotza Baskal V'Yamalo. Rasha ben Benoshel Nimrod Rasha. Okay, you got all the Rasham in your lineage.
His whole lineage.
Right? Ben Benoshel Nimrod Rasha Shehimrid I'll call Olam Kulo. Allah B'Machuso. So all these bad things about Nimrod, he revolted and put the whole world against God's kingdom. Kama, or maybe it means Nebuchadnezzar. No, I think it means Nimrod. Kama, so who do you think you are, though? Kamish nosef shel adam. How long does a man live? 70 years. Shenemar yemesh noseinu b'hem shivim shana. You're a human. You've got 70 years to go. V'im b'gvura shmonim shana. So how are you going to really think that you are greater than God? And the Gemara now goes into a hyperbole to show how far away God's abode really is. Now, of course, we think of this in spiritual terms. The Gemara here tries to put this into mileage. Okay, so actually, I have a chart to kind of make it easier for us to go through this.
Exact mileage.
So you can actually trace the mileage. Okay. Okay, here you go.
Mileage may vary.
You don't have the compensation rate. I'm sorry. So no, it's actually in travel time. It's in travel years. It doesn't give it an amount of kilometers or parsecs.
Not in light years.
It's not in light years. It gives the amount of time that you would travel. How far can you travel in a day, and how far can you travel in a year, and how far can you travel in 500 years?
Very fair.
So therefore, each of these items that we had learned on Yud Bet and Mid Bet has a width or a thickness that it would take you 500 years to travel through. This is obviously Lashon Guzma. But it means each of these has some kind of physical significance. It's kind of like going into outer space. So you if you start today,
believe that all these people came from outer space.
Yes,
and they're on the radio.
Yes. If you started today, you got 70 years to go. Okay,
right
now. But what do we know about the heavens that the Almighty resides in? You think you're greater than God? Halom and arts adarakia mahala chamesh meos shana. They go from the ground to the first rakia. Just to get there is 500 years travel. The ovav shel rakia mahala chamesh meos shana, and the thickness of the rakia is 500 years. And how many rakias are there? Seven rakias. V'chein bein kol rakia v'rakia. So between each one is 500 times 7, which brings you up to 3,500 years, right? So you got the middle column is the years on each item, and the left column is the running total. And then Ulamala mehen chayos hakodesh. Oh, I'm sorry. And then he has something else here. And then he has between each one. So each one is 500, and between each one is 500. So I skipped that, right? I didn't say that clearly.
No.
So each rakia is 500. There's 7 rakias.
Right.
And then between each one, you've got to get from one to the other is another 500-year journey.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you got 3,500 and another 3,000.
6 in between.
Correct.
Right?
That's right. So you got
3,000.
Right. So you got 500, 3,500, and 3,000. And then now you finish with the rakias, and you end up what's above the rakias, the chayos hakodesh.
Or just the raglei chayos hakodesh.
Right. But we don't even understand what these chayos hakodesh are and how big they are. So look at this. So then you have the chayos hakodesh is above each rakia, the final rakia. Ragle chayos keneged kulam. So I guess in the last rakia to the chayos you got 500. Which one? How does they do this? So you have. Where's the bet in parentheses?
I don't know what that one. Kapot? Raglei. Oh.
Includes
just the soles of their feet. Is that it?
Correct. Kapi raglot
I
achad
don't know what
keneged
means
kulam.
keneged kulam. I don't know what he means by that. How many chayot are there? Maybe there's all.
Oh, that says ragle chayot keneged kulam. The actual feet of the, I guess the ankles are equal to everything that you had until now. 3,500, 3,000,
right,
and 500 and 500. So it's equal to everything. So whatever you have to double now.
Right.
Then karsule achayos keneged kulam. The karsule are I guess that's the ankles. The ragle is like the bottom of
their feet, right?
Right.
Like
so just where they are is equal to everything. Then you have the karsule. He's got keneged kulam. It's equal to everything before. So you're doubling now. So in the way he understands it, it's now another 15,000 years. So, which is better than not how I read it. I assumed it was just like another 500. But I guess
I think what you just said now is exactly.
Well, I'm just reading off the chart, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Shokei achayot. The shokei achayot are the
Shok is like
the shoulder.
No, I think the shok maybe it's I don't know, I think a shok is like a.
Oh, the thigh. The thigh. Okay, the thigh of the chayot, the kadosh keneged kulam. That's another doubling. Once again, you're doubling and doubling again. Okay. Rechuve hachayos. I don't know if this is keneged kulam. Once again, you're doubling it again.
I know, maybe Yerech is the thigh.
Well, okay.
Shok. What's a shok? It's like a word. It comes up in the.
What?
Choose. No, shok comes up all the way in Vayikra.
That's what I'm saying. In the
Karbonis. I thought it's shoulder.
In the Karbonis.
Maybe not. Maybe you're right.
They're going to be working their way up. Because the Yerech, I think, is the thigh, no?
Well, ask Jack. He's got the English there.
What's a shok? After we got the soles of their feet. It says the soles of the chayot.
Identify the chayot for us.
Should say somewhere like the soles of the chayot's feet, and then their ankles.
Just a moment here.
Maybe the shok at the bottom, right? Like the tibia, whatever is down there.
Most high. I told them Russia.
Oh, I worked out the Rashi, the Laz in the Rashi. Shavi. See Karsule, Astiora, Shikorim, Shavi.
The shavi,
in French.
I think, is the ankle. Isn't the shavi the ankle or no? Well, what do you call that bone between your knee and your foot? What's that bone called?
Isn't the shok one of the parts of the animal?
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, we want which part?
Oh, isn't it the right breast?
Maybe.
No, that's a chazeh. There's the right breast and there's a shok.
But there's got to be a list there of this piece of Gemara. Can you find it?
But the shavi, I think, is the ankle. I think. No. What do you say when you kick somebody the shin? There's the word, the shin.
No,
in English.
Shavi is ankle.
Ankle. I'm saying a shavi in French is an ankle. But I think that's the.
Maybe I can find it quicker.
And that's a shok. He's saying.
That's the
what? Give it to that.
Karsule.
Okay.
If you look at
There you go.
Karsule,
it's got the Laz there.
All right, here we go.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here we go. Ragle are the feet.
Right.
Karsule are the ankles.
That's what we said.
Shoke are the lower parts of the legs.
So that was it. So it is.
Then we have Rechuve Achayos are the middle. Rechuve Achayos is the middle parts of the legs. Yereche Achayos are the upper parts of the legs.
Okay. That's the
so we've gone up through the anatomy up to where the leg. I guess the leg is attached to the animal. And then you have a chayos, which is the torso of the animal. That's, I guess, above where the leg comes down. Is equal once again to whatever you have before. Salvare chayos are the necks of the chayos.
Exactly.
Then you have the rosh chayos, the heads of the chayos.
Exactly.
Another, once again, also doubles. And karne chayos are the horns.
I didn't know they had karnayim. I didn't remember that from you guys. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Karna, you're like a crown. Like a crown.
I think it's more the.
Maybe you think
I
it's a crown?
I think it's more the horns.
I think so.
Yeah, they're chayos, they're animals.
A keter is a crown.
Okay, the holy animals.
Oh, keter.
Right.
Correct.
So and so all of this keeps doubling and doubling and doubling as you go up through the list, and so above the karnei achayos we reach, of course, the kisei, the regular kisei kavod.
Right.
Kisei kavod, ragli kisei kavod keneged kulam. And then kisei kavod keneged kulam. So you got the legs, and then you have the kisei kavod on top of them. And on top of that, you have melech kel chai v'kayam ram nisa shochein alehem. You have God in all His magnitude and magnificence on top of that. And therefore, if you take all the numbers and kind of go through the chart, every time you're doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling, right? This is to the nth degree, as we would say. You end up with a total of 15,360,000 years of traveling that it would take you to get up to where the Kisei HaKavod is, and that's quite a far ways.
That's maybe it's light year. I would say multiply by 1,000, you get the age of Newton.
I don't know how far can you travel in 1 year.
What speed?
It depends on the speed.
I believe the speed is human speed.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Well, the fastest possible speed would be the speed of light.
No. I believe it was meant. First of all, an exaggeration, hyperbole, but they're assuming how far you can walk.
Absolutely.
You can walk.
Ride on a horse.
You can walk 4 miles an hour, 5 kilometers an hour, something like that. The question is how long can you walk at this pace before you collapse?
Yeah.
Right. We assume people are in better shape. I don't know. 4 hours, 6 hours.
20,000 feet. You can't breathe.
Well, people do marathons.
That's another issue.
No. If you're ascending,
you run out of oxygen.
So that's of course part of this hyperbole.
Yeah.
In other words, the whole thing doesn't make sense, which they may not have understood. What they're really trying to say, and I guess here's the message:
it's impossible.
It's impossible to ever reach the Kisei HaKavod.
Sure.
Because even though Nebuchadnezzar came across as like the bravado that he's going to revolt against God, he doesn't hold the candle to God because God is this far away and he'll never even reach where God is. So if he succeeded, it's because God led him, not because he revolted against God. Whatever. So, but I'm not sure. But I think it all really rests upon how much you can travel in 1 day. We have to multiply that by 354 times per year.
Right.
Then multiply that by 15,360,000.
No problem.
Okay. So when you say V'atomar ta'aleh abama say of Adama admel elyon, what's going to happen to you? Said the Baskal, Achel she'ol turad or yarkasei bar. You're going to go right down to the netherworld, to the pit, to the edges of the pit. That's the Baskal that is found, or Yeshayahu quoting that about the upcoming impending doom of Nebuchadnezzar who is on the horizon. Okay, so that's really the wrap up to this, but of course we're not at Amasim Merkava yet. Okay, now, so the Mishnah had said, just quotes us the comparison, goes back to the Mishnah to quote us the comparison between Masa Bereshis and Masa Merkava.
Well, there was
right, and
first there was Arayos, right, and then we got the Merkava, right, and now we got the.
So the Mishnah said you can't even teach Masa Merkava to one person. And then the question was, does that mean what if the person is clever and knowledgeable, or how will he learn it? What does it mean? Okay. So Tani Rabbi Chia. So you can't teach him Masim Merkava, aber Mosim Lo Rashi Prakim. But you can give him like the general themes of Masim Merkava. You can scratch the surface. You can't really expound on it, but you can kind of titillate him.
The headlines.
The headlines.
So this is a teacher who himself studied on his own after he got the headlines, presumably, and now he's giving the neck. Well, somebody had to learn it, right?
In other words, you who know it can teach it
I'm
to
saying, you only got to know it, again, because your teacher had the same rule, right? So,
maybe,
like I say, you must have studied yourself, right?
But in other words, you can learn Masim Merkava, you can learn parts of Masim Merkava.
Right.
Rabbi Zera, in Mosim Rashi Prakim Elav Beistin. No, it doesn't mean you can teach anyone on Rashi Prakim. You can teach one to one person. The one person who you teach even Rashi Prakim has to be based in and Komi Shalibo Doeg. Okay? Right? The Chacham is the Masim Merkava is where the first paragraph in Cheskel. Ego de Amrei, Vahu Shalibo Doeg Bikirbo. Okay, so I guess the variation is not it's not of based in or a person shalibo doeg bikirbo. It's based in who is libo doeg bikirbo. That's the Igod Yamri. Okay. Amar Rabbi Ami ein mosim sisrei Torah mi sheyesh lo chamisha dvarim. Okay, you can only teach the secrets of the Torah to a person has 55 things. Sar chamishim. Okay, now what does this mean? It means an officer of 50 people. So there are two interpretations what this means. One, it means we have in the Torah Sarei Elef and Sarei Meya and Sarei Chamishim.
Now we're talking much
Correct.
later,
but what does the term mean? So the term either could mean the man is so chashiv that he has a following, or some of the Mepharshim try to say he is at least 50 years old. Sarei Chamishim means he's like a ben Chamishim. Okay, he's a master of 50. Unasol panim, and he's doesn't stand on his kavod. V'yoetz, he's an advisor. V'chacham charoshim, he's a wise man of the quiet world, the quiet things. V'novel nachash, and he knows the secrets, so to speak, things you whisper. Okay. V'yam Rabbi Ami, ein mosim divrei Torah eli oved kochavim. Okay, and this actually is an important halacha. Rabbi Ami says you cannot teach Torah to a Ovid Kochavim. Shenemar, and you recognize the pasuk Lo asachen lechol goy u'mishpatim bal yidom. Okay.
Yeah, but this raises, of course, to me, in my mind, a tremendous issue, which is, of course, the Septuagint, right? And the incredible impact it ended up having.
Well, actually, it's correct, but also it also opens up a larger issue. Can you teach a non-Jew Torah?
Yeah,
right?
Well, yeah, that's what it says. Exactly.
I heard you can teach a non-Jew what the Shiva mitzvahs b'nei Noach are.
Right, but the question is, can you teach them something that's not Shiva mitzvahs b'nei Noach?
Well, first of all, if they want to convert, obviously,
Rabbi Gunsberg once mentioned a person who asked you questions. Let's say you're reading on the subway.
Right.
You're not only can answer, but you're obligated to answer.
Correct, but could you give a class? Could you give a class to non-Jews?
That's different.
Could a Jew teach in a university where non-Jews are taking Jewish studies? That's a good example.
Our university's full of Jewish studies.
Can you actually run a day school if there are Jews who are not halachically Jewish in the classroom? Okay, and if that's the only child who shows up that day to class. Okay, so there are different responses. If something comes up in the modern era, much more than in the Middle Ages where it was a closed shop. One is, some say this really refers to Torah Shabbal Pass. There's nothing wrong with teaching Chumash necessarily, Tanakh. It's more about the special part of the Torah for Bnei Yisrael. Some point out that today, where the guy can learn on his own, you're not really doing anything. In other words, if you don't teach the guy, he'll open a book, go to a library. If someone else will teach him.
You're doing better, because in the book, who knows what he'll think when you could actually move in the right direction.
The third approach says that, and this is a general approach about many things, you can't teach an Oved Kochavim, but a non-Jew who is not an Oved Kochavim, but a monotheist of some nature, there is no prohibition to teach him Torah because he's got an allied faith. Right? Idol worshiper will misunderstand it completely, but someone who believes in monotheism maybe can really appreciate what that is.
Yours actually says Nochri, right? Does yours say Avodah?
We have Avodah Kochavim. Okay. So there are others if Jews are part of the scenario. So you're teaching a mixed group. So you're teaching the Jews and non-Jews. So that's another one of the heterim that comes up. So there's a number of approaches, but and you find people say you should teach it to a guy, but it's clearly not as stringent, and there are ways around it and certain exceptions to the rule, especially if it's a mixed audience. So and that's the pasuk. I actually went to someone who was not very learned, and he was every time he would come to shul, he was very upset that the goyim were singled out into Hillim, and he knew it was he knew it wasn't good. It rankled him with his universalistic approach to Jewish values, right? Which doesn't really mean to single out goyim as a pejorative. It means that God singled out the Jewish people for special treatment, and those who are not Jewish, the goyim, not a goy as a pejorative, but he only knew the word goy from the Yiddish use, which was a really pejorative, right? Even by the way, even that is not a pejorative. The real pejorative for a non-Jew is not goy, but shegets.
Exactly. That's a male one.
Shiksa.
Yeah, I'm saying that's just a male one.
But that's a pejorative because
that's
it's
definitely
shakets.
pejorative.
Okay. But at any rate, but interestingly enough, what he was bothered by is actually comes as the source for the uniqueness of teaching Torah to a Jew. All right. So this is the what we learn about learning the Maaseh Merkava. And what we can't teach the Maaseh Merkava, you can't teach the secrets, and you can't even teach Torah to a non-Jew. That's where we get a little bit off topic. Okay, Amalei Rabbi Yochanan le Rabbi Elazar. Okay, so you'll see how reticent people were to share Maaseh Merkava. So Rabbi Yochanan goes to Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Yochanan is later is the greatest sage in Eretz Yisrael. The famous Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. He's the Rosh Yeshiva for a very long period of time, and after him things really go down. So he says to Rabbi Elazar, who's older than him, Te'ag Marcha b'Maaseh Merkava. I guess he says to him, Can I teach you? Come here and I'll teach you Maaseh Merkava. So Rabbi Elazar, I guess Rabbi Elazar is younger, the other way around. Rabbi Yochanan is older and wants to teach Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi Elazar says, Amalei lo kishoy. He says, I'm not old. Right? I'm not that old yet. I'm too young to learn Maaseh Merkava. Kikash, when Rabbi Elazar got older, noch nafshed Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan, who was the font of wisdom, died. So he couldn't take him up on that. So Amalei Rav Asi. So Rav Asi then went over to Rabbi Elazar and said, Tei v'agmorcha Maaseh Merkava. Come and I'll teach you over Maaseh Merkava.
Right.
Who is he saying this to? Rabbi Elazar again.
Right.
So Amalei, so Rabbi Elazar said, no, the Siman min Hashemayim, Izakoi, if I had been worthy, Gemir Nami Rabbi Yochanan. If God wanted me to learn Maaseh Merkava, I would have learned it from Yochanan, but the first time I was clearly too young, and when I was old enough and ready to receive it, he was gone. Okay? So he never got to learn it. Rabbi Yochanan Izakoi, Gemir Nami Rabbi Yochanan Rabbah, comma, period. Rav Yosef have a gami Maaseh Merkava. So Rav Yosef knew and studied Maaseh Merkava. Sabi de Pumbedisa, there were these elders, scholars known as Sabi de Pumbedisa, have a Tanib Maaseh Bereishis. They studied Maaseh Bereishis, okay, which is more deeper and more esoteric, Maaseh Merkava. Right? Because the Mishnah told us you can't teach Maaseh Bereishis to two. You can't do Arayos with three. You can't do Maaseh Bereishis with two people, only to one. You can't do Maaseh Merkava even to one.
Right.
So therefore, Maaseh Merkava is more difficult, more esoteric, more I don't know what, Kabbalistic. So who are the two guys here? One is Rabbi Yosef. He knew Maaseh Merkava, and Sabi the Pumbedisa knew Maaseh Bereishis. So they had an idea if we can share. It's called parent share in modern education. So Amrulay. So the Sabi the Pumbedisa said to Rabbi Yosef, Ligmor lan mar Maaseh Merkava. Can you teach us? Can you, Mr. Rabbi Yosef, teach us Maaseh Merkava? So Amar Lahu, he said to them, Agmron li Maaseh Bereishis. Teach me Maaseh Bereishis. You'll teach me Maaseh Bereishis, and then we'll flip it around. So sure enough,
Sounds good.
They taught him what Maaseh Bereshis is. Basa the Agmaran, after he learned from them, after they had taught him, Amrule, they said to him, Ligmun Mar Maaseh Merkava.
Right.
Now it's your turn. Teach us. They didn't do it. Amalahu, he said to them. It's interesting pasuk. He said to Tanina Bahu, we have a brisa that says, that learns this pasuk, Dvash v'cholav tachas l'shonech, that honey and milk are under your tongue. It's actually referring to the sweetness of the Torah. Okay. Which means there are some things that stay under my tongue and don't get out of them. Those things of the Torah which are sweeter than honey and milk will stay under my tongue. That's what he told them. So I'm not telling.
What about the fact that he agreed to be? Wasn't he was the one who suggested, or they the one?
They suggested it. They suggested it.
They said teach us. So they took the initiative.
Right.
Right.
And he said fine.
Teach us Merkava, and he said teach me.
Right.
But he didn't say I'll teach you.
Correct. So that's how
they made that assumption.
Yep. Okay, so Rabbi Amar Mehach. Rabbi Amar Mehach. Rabbi says no, it's a different pasuk. Same story, but I don't know. He has a different ending to the story. What was the pasuk that either Rabbi quotes or that Rav Yosef quotes? Kvasim lilvushech. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. Kvasim are lambs, to your garments. I guess they're soft like lambs. I'm not sure. Which means dvarim. So the drash is not kvashim, but kivshono shel olam. Kivshon is what? It's like a fiery furnace.
Right.
So the items that are like the fiery furnace of the world, the creation of the world, the sisvo shel olam. Rashi says the secrets of the world, Yutachas levushech, should stay under your garments. Okay, so
the crazy thing is, I mean, with all of that, it's interesting, but there are obviously some people who know this. So how did they get to know it? Somebody must have done.
So Masorah.
You had to be.
Means that somebody passed it on to them.
But what you see is that the group that studied this was a very small, selected and self-selected group. Okay,
I guess that's all you can say. They obviously must have taught it to somebody.
Right. Now this looks like the end of the story. So this was who came to who. This is what the Sabi. This is still the Sabi the Pumbedisa story, correct? So they said to him. So they continue. They said, "Amrulei Taninan Behu, teach us until Ad Vayomer Alai Ben Adam. Teach me until which is the beginning of the second parak in Yecheskel." So they said, "Okay, won't teach us. Don't teach us Maaseh Merkava. Teach us just chapter 1 of Yecheskel, and we'll be satisfied with what you can teach us." And of course, what's his response? Amar Lohen, Hein Maaseh Merkava. That's exactly what I'm not teaching you. In other words, exactly.
Saying even this part is really part of Maaseh.
That's what it is. Yecheskel chapter 1 is Maaseh Merkava.
Chapter 1 and chapter 2. What is it?
They said, teach us until Tanina Behu Ad Vayomer Alai Ben Adam. Teach us until the first words of chapter 2. Remember, there were no chapters in the time of the Gemara.
Today it's chapter 2.
Right. So to teach us until the beginning of this new paragraph,
right?
Which is the beginning of chapter 2, and he says, "Hey, that's exactly what I'm not teaching you." All right. Now, so how far is Maaseh Merkava? So what's the part that's really out of bounds?
According to this, right up to chapter 2, you're saying.
Correct. Right. So that's the Gemara just kind of probes it a little more, but clearly. Chapter 1 Yecheskel is Maaseh Merkava, which is why I believe in the art scroll they don't translate the first chapter of Yecheskel. I don't know. Maybe in the Tanakh they do. The Sefer Yecheskel they published years ago somehow, or they had something about it. They didn't have a literal translation. I don't know. Because you're not supposed to study it. How do you translate it? It makes no sense. Okay, so how far does this go? So what we just read until now, the story looks like it's chapter 1. So at Heichon Maaseh Merkava. Now the Gemara just kind of puts down a halacha, leaves behind the story, and says, okay, so what's the halacha? So Rabbi Omar Ad Vo'era Basra, until the second time where it says Vo'era, which is in the end of chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. Okay.
Are those the last two verses?
Nope. Okay. Maybe it is.
That would be too easy.
But that's because before he said till chapter 2. Now he's saying a little
Right.
bit
It
more.
is. It is correct. Okay. So it is. It is the last two verses. Va'era keina chashmal, which is chapter 27. You have 27 and 28, and that's the end of chapter 1. So according to this, how far is the chashmal? Until ad va'era basra, which means from that point on, the Merkava is finished. Okay. Rav Yitzchak Amar ad hachashmal.
So one says it's the word va'era, right? And the next one, or the second time, it says, and one is saying goes right up to the word achashmal, right? That you just read us?
Right.
How many times the word va'era appear there? Near the end.
So the word chashmal is like the third word in that pasuk.
And what about va'era?
So va'era is the first word. It's va'era ke'ena chashmal kamara eish.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So maybe he's arguing two words before, just two words apart.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
Correct.
maybe.
Okay. There's a first va'era, which is towards the beginning of the chapter. It's pasuk dal. It said va'era b'nei ruach sarab and pamanat safon. Then it goes into the actual
Right.
Merkava vision, and then it ends with va'era, which looks like I saw again.
Right.
So either when he saw again, that's where you're okay, or I guess you got to get past the word chashmal, which is the reference to the Merkava.
Right.
So Rav Yitzchak Omar ad chashmal. So which means ad va'era megamrinan until ad va'era megamrinan.
I don't know, but it sounds, if you read the next, Bikan Va'elach, the sign Rosh Prakim, so it sounds you can teach.
Oh, so it seems the other way around. Okay, the other way around. So which means it's backwards from what we thought. Until Va'era, Megamrina, you can actually study.
Ah,
So in other words, that's not off balance.
okay.
The whole first chapter until verse 27 is okay, with the whole thing about the chayos and the four animals and the Mersa Merkava and everything. Mikan, that's okay. Mikan Va'elach Masvinan Rashi Prakim. From there, the last two verses of chapter 1 until the end of chapter 1, that you can't really explain. You can only learn Rashi Prakim. It's only two psukim. Right? Which means, by the way, after that, which still continues the vision, it's not as intense, that's okay. Okay.
Here's the economic.
Or maybe it's right now, then we come to Iga the Amri, which turns things around.
Which is the other way around.
Right, which turns it around. Okay, Iga the Amri, ad va'era masrinan Rashi Prakim. Okay, so from the beginning until va'era, you can only learn Rashi Prakim. Mikan va'elech. Okay, so from the beginning to Va'era, or the beginning to Chashmal, okay, the other opinion, you can only learn Rashi Prakim. Misham mikan va'elech imhu chacham mevin midaito in ilo lo. Okay, from that point until the beginning of those last two verses of chapter 1, you're on your own. You can't even teach them Rashi Prakim. So, in other words, according to the Ikar Amrei, everything is really in this chapter, or at least until Va'era is only Rashi Prakim. You can't, it's Masi Merkava. Right? And beyond that, the end of the chapter is completely out of bounds.
You're on your own. If you're smart, you can understand it, right?
Okay, good. So, and once again, if you have this chart, the chart is on the bottom of the page, right below all those large multiplied numbers. So it's actually fairly clever. You have the two opinions, Rabbi and Rabbi Yitzchak. And the question, and one says Va'era, one says Chashmal. It's different, of 3 words. But the first opinion says that the first opinion says you can study everything until Va'era, which is the first 26 verses of chapter 1 are okay. Then from verses 27 and 28 is only Rashi Prakim, and there's nothing that's out of bounds. Okay, The second opinion says, no, not true. The rush, I guess the only thing around bounds are the first those two verses. The second opinion says, no, from the beginning of chapter 1 until verse 27 is only Rashi Prakim, and then after that, it's completely out of bounds. You can't even learn Rashi Prakim. So, alright, so it's really out of bounds. Okay. Low. So, the Gemara says, Umidar Shinan b'chashmal. Okay, so the Gemara asks the question: can you, in other words, can people really study this, or we just said, at least according to the Ika the Amrei, that no one can be taught this.
Right.
Right from chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. You can't be taught it, but you're on your own.
Yeah.
If you figure it out, good.
Yeah.
So which means you can darshan it. Darshaning means you're studying and doing independent studies. The Gemara says, "Mi darshinan b'chashmal." Can you study chashmal? That's where the word chashmal comes up in those two verses. If you are hu yanuka, there was this child. Don't know what child actually is. The darsh means a younger person. Darsh b'chashmal, who studied the chashmal. These two verses, I guess. V'nafka nura, and a fire came out of the parchment, wherever it was. V'achal tei,
Burn them right up.
and burnt them right up. It consumed them. Right. Okay.
These young people that should never study.
So, I mean, the Gemara seemed to say that, yeah, you can go study. So the Gemara says, well, ridiculous. You know what? If a kid it's like kids playing with matches, right? They're not responsible. They don't have the maturity. So this younger person, whatever it means, a Yanuka, he had not really reached maturity to be able to process it. Okay. So far, so good? Yeah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Bram Zachar Osu Ish Latov, V'Chananya ben Chizkiyo Shemo. Okay, so if not for the following person, Chananya ben Chizkiyo, we will remember him for good. If not for him, Ilmalehu Nigna Seif Yecheskel. If not for him, then the book of Yecheskel would have been put in the Geniza. Shahaya Dvarim Sosrim Divrei Torah. The words of Yecheskel are contradict words of the Torah. Anybody know what this means? Where does Yecheskel contradict the words of the Torah?
Who was the guy who saved him again? Doesn't say Bram?
So it says Chananya ben Chizkiah.
Right.
So this has nothing to do with the Maaseh Merkava. It has to do with the last 10 or so chapters in Yecheskel are a very graphic vision of the Beis HaMikdash, about bringing karbanos.
Right.
The dimensions don't match up. The karbanos don't match up.
Absolutely.
There are real discrepancies.
Indeed.
So it reads, if you read this and say this is what the Beis HaMikdash is, you are going to be all wrong. And it's a big problem. So people wanted to say we shouldn't put Yecheskel into the canon. See, even though the canon was finished, people still were arguing about what should be in there. So it wasn't that sad.
Any good, but they could argue.
No, okay, but he had to come along and save Yecheskel.
Well, if he's in, he's in. No, we just said 400 years before it was in. You can't go around.
But people wanted to hide it or put it out of bounds from learning. So what did this guy do? So what did Chananya ben Chizkiah do? He studied it. And he bought 300 barrels of oil, means illuminating oil. V'yashav ba'aliyah, he went up to the attic and no one bothered him. V'darsho, and he studied it on his own in order to reconcile how the parts of Yecheskel can be reconciled with the rest of the Torah. Okay, we don't know how he reconciled them.
No.
The usual answer that people give in trying to reconcile Yecheskel is one of two ways. I'll tell you what the people who believe say, and I'll tell you what the heretics say. Okay, the people who believe say Yecheskel is talking about the BAYT Shlishi. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Well, of course, Mashiach comes, all the rules get changed. Okay, some rules get changed. Okay, so therefore they may, and then therefore that changes. That means that explains the discrepancies in the karbanos, in the dimensions, and so forth. So, which is of course is the accepted answer, though it's the people in Machon HaMikdash who are building the utensils for the Beis HaMikdash follow the dimensions that are found in the Torah, not in Yecheskel. So no one really believes that this is what's going to be, but that's a way to get around it.
Isn't there other Nevi? I'm trying to think what it says. Shemesh HaChadash or something HaChadash and other new things Hashem talks about.
Chadash.
What?
Yeah, but this is very, very specific. These are very detailed.
But he's making new things. He makes
Sounds scary.
could make different
Okay, what I'm saying, but the people in the Mechon HaMikdash who are building everything already, they're following the old stuff.
Absolutely.
They got the old dimensions. Okay, so no, they don't really believe it. They believe it. They don't believe it. The scholarly approach would say, and this of course is denigrating to a prophet, that Yecheskel never really saw the Beis HaMikdash. In other words, where is Yecheskel?
He's in Babel.
He's in Babel. So if he saw the Beis HaMikdash, it was a long ago vision, and so his record is inaccurate. It was a best guess scenario. That's of course very difficult to say for a believing Jew, to say who says Yecheskel really is a Navi and is reporting the word of God. Okay, but that's the difference between Yecheskel and between the other Nevi'im. Yecheskel is one of the few Nevi'im who prophesies outside of Eretz Yisrael, correct? Why? And in fact, normally we say that there is no Nevuah outside of Eretz Yisrael. There are very few exceptions.
Daniel, Esther.
Daniel is not a prophet.
And what about Yonah?
Esther is not a prophet. There is Ruach HaKodesh. Yonah is the other exception, right? And Moshe Rabbeinu, of course. But then again, Moshe is in a pre-Israel existence. You can't say you have to be in Israel to prophesize if you didn't get there yet, right? Avram prophesizes, but he's in Israel, so Moshe continues.
Wasn't Esther a Neviah?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so Esther is called Esther HaNeviah. True. Okay, but she's called one of the Sheva Nevios.
Right.
Correct. But the book itself is not a book of prophecy.
No.
So it's a little bit on the edge of what prophecy is, and Daniel surely is not.
What about Yecheskel with
in fact, in Megillah, in Masechet Megillah, they quote Daniel and they quote Chagiga Zechariah Malachi, and they say one was a prophet, one was not a prophet. So Daniel was not a prophet. He said some serious visions. It's not clear what's Ruach HaKodesh, what's prophecy. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So,
what about Yecheskel with the bones? Anybody?
what about him?
Does anybody doubt that Hashem gave him that vision? In other words, are we saying, well, part of Yecheskel's okay, but the other part of Yecheskel's not okay?
No, but I'm saying you read the end of Yecheskel's last 8, 9, 10 chapters. You see, it becomes like it's a textbook.
Definitely.
It's a textbook of the Beis HaMikdash.
Yeah, no, I remember.
No one is saying it's not okay. No, I didn't say it's not okay.
No,
I said the way
those who say, well, because it's like, no, we had some.
So I need to believe that Hananiah ben Chizkiah sat down and wrote all kinds of tomes and books or theories how to reconcile why what looks to be against our dimensions really fit into dimensions.
No, but it sounds even more serious. Right,
because
it sounds like there were people, and maybe this was at the time it was canonized, that people wanted to actually not put it in, and they would have destroyed the book or thrown it out, and this man went way back when.
But what I'm trying to say, how did he save it? So it's clear that he didn't just get up and say, okay, this is about the time of Mashiach. He sat down and kind of managed to reconcile them. I don't know how to do that. You complicated mathematical theories and calculations to make what looked to be impossible really work.
Didn't Yecheskel actually work in the Beit HaMikdash?
Yeah, probably. Well, so here's what they say. They say that Yecheskel began as a Navi in Eretz Yisrael. In other words, and that would also explain the Yonah story. If you started as a Navi, you got a get out of jail pass. You got to have grandfathered clause. If you left Eretz Yisrael, you could still be a prophet. So therefore, we know that Yecheskel is on the Har Kvar, right? He's in Bavel. But he wasn't born there. He's already a prophet, and he sees this the Maseh Merkava. So what's going on there? So the answer was he was a prophet. They exiled him, and he kept his prophecy.
That matter. Just thinking of Eliyahu was the same thing, because Hashem spoke to him when he was outside. He ran away out of the country. Clearly,
correct. Okay.
Hashem spoke to him. Hey, go back.
But yes. Okay, that's a good example. So we don't know what he says. At any rate, what do we do? So he darshaned it. So you see, by the way, that it's another example. Someone can darshan Yecheskel, even though the drashas of Hananiah ben Chizkiah appear to be more about the karbanos that disagree or contradict what the Torah karbanos are. Okay. Tan Rabbanan. We go back to the Tinok and Yenuka. Masa betinok echad she'akor bebeis Rabo b'sefer Yecheskel. All right, once again, there was a young person who was not worthy, and he was sitting in the house of his Rebbe, and he was studying Yecheskel v'hoimevim b'chashmal, and he began to understand the secrets of the chashmal, and sure enough, what happened? Boom. Yatsa ish mechashmal v'sarafto. Okay. So a big show lignos Sefer Cheskel. So they wanted to bury this. So here's the Chananya ben Chizkiah story comes up in this case again. So Malem Chananya ben Chizkiah Mzeh Chacham Hakol Chachamim. Right. In other words, he shouldn't have been there. So if this guy thought he was smart, should everybody think they're smart? In other words, he got himself into trouble.
This kid we're talking about.
Yeah, right. If you have high tension wires and you climb the ladder and you get electrocuted, what it means, you should turn off the electricity. Right. That's what the response was. So notice, he also, not only did he reconcile the contradictions in Cheskel, he also helped save this in this tragic death of the Yenuka, the Tinok. Okay. My Chashmal. Okay, what does Chashmal mean? Some Rav Yehuda, he says it's a contraction. Chayos Eish Memalalos. You didn't know that, okay?
No, I didn't.
Right, everybody thinks Chashmal is, of course, electricity. Electricity was the term that Ben Yehuda coined, based upon the Chashmal of Yecheskel.
Absolutely.
Correct? Ben Yehuda was great. It was. Ben Yehuda looked for the Bible to find all these words and try to make sense of them. Today they would simply say electronica. Right? So,
clearly not a Hebrew word.
No. So the Gemara says it comes from the word chayos eish mamalos, means to talk. Mamalel means to speak in Aramaic. So the holy chayos are talking. That's what the chashmal is. But Masnisa Tana.
No, but
that's what chashmal means.
Yeah, I understand, but when you really read Yecheskel, you can see that's not what he's. I don't.
Correct. So Rashi says it doesn't only mean the chayos are talking. It means while they talk, there's fire coming out of their mouths. So this kind of electric show that you see is really the chayos who are talking as they speak. Not words, not salivas coming out, but fire. Right. Tana itim chashos itim amalos. So these holy chayos in Yecheskel, after having told you shouldn't study what this is all about, the Gemara now gives you some pieces about what it is all about. Okay, so the Chayos, sometimes they talk, sometimes they're quiet, sometimes they talk. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks, the word comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they're quiet. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't talk, or the words don't come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they actually talk at the same time. Okay? We got a few minutes. V'chayos rotzo v'shov kamare habazak. So this is once again, as after telling us we're not supposed to stay in Cheskel, this goes back and says he got a little piece here. Maybe this part's okay. My Ratzah V'Shov. What do you mean the Chayos are going back and forth? Rabbi Yehuda, Ka'or Hayotzei Mipia Kivshan. It's like the fire that comes out of the mouth of the furnace. It just kind of shoots out. Like ever see? I guess like you see the smelting that goes off in Hamilton Harbor. Where suddenly fire shoots up and down, right? So that's what it is. The same way the furnace, as it's burning hot, it would pick up some of the impurities and would shoot out the fire and would jut in and jut out. That's what the fire of the Chayos was. My Kamare Habazak. What's Mare Habazak mean? So Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda, Ka'arsh Hayotzi Mibein HaCharasim. This is the light, or the fiery light that comes between the cheres. And they explain as follows: when you needed to smelt some things, or maybe melt them, or bring them together, so in the fire you took your metals, and you put like a lattice work over them, like a piece of cheres that had holes in it, which probably allowed the heat to be more intense, but allowed it not to crack because the heat was able to come out through it. So as it begins to melt and come together, the fire would kind of play on this, and it would shoot up between. Don't think of it as a lattice work. Think of it as holes in a bowl, right? So the fire would shoot out the different places. So it was an irregular kind of flame that was shooting in and out as the process began to work back and forth.
Probably ceramic telephone kind.
Correct, right?
From here.
Probably from here. Yeah, yes, probably from here. So I think the word is bazak in Yecheskel.
Bezek, right?
Huh?
Bezek.
Correct.
Never realized that.
telephony, electricity, it's all in here.
Yeah, the real words were taken from the Tanakh.
For sure.
Okay, so once again, this is going to continue. So you're going to get a taste of what you're not supposed to study, or so.
Right.
I don't mean to say it like that. You get a taste of what the Sefer Cheskel is, or at least a piece of it, and it's probably a good place to stop. But it's going to next page is going to really be a lot of Cheskel stuff.
Which is interesting because we also, beside these chayos, we have the seraphim, and seraphim must come from Lisrof also.
Correct.
So I mean, clearly we have a lot of fiery things
Stuff going on.
Right, but the chayos appear to be your big major angels. In fact, and they're surrounding the Merkava, which is of course this chart here, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of millions of years.
Yeah,